Richard maybe calls the unofficial countryside. It's beautiful kind of roadside growth here. Such a beautiful day today. Thought it'd be nice to go to the beach. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. Noticeably more traffic on the roads now. Today is the 15th of May 2020. This is Orient Way coming up to the junction with Rockholt Road. Significant traffic jam here on Orient Way. Eurostar trains there in the sidings. This is where the Eurostar trains come to get cleaned. I don't even know if they're running at the moment or what kind of service they're running. First we have to cross the beautiful little Dagenham Brook. A real treasure in this edgeland landscape. I'll put links below to my most recent Dagenham Brook walk. It's a fantastic walk. It really is a little river with an awful lot of stories. It was a real pleasure to lead 2 walks along the Dagenham Brook for Waltham Forest London Borough of Culture 2019. I said I'd take you to the beach, and here we are. The beach at Leyton here down on Eye Farm. The wonderful beach volleyball courts. In summer it's really quite busy down here. They take it very seriously. They have tournaments here and loads of people stand around and watch, and they have people calling out through speaker systems and music playing. It's a great scene. This is one of my favourite places in London down here on Marsh Lane Fields. I've talked about it many times before, but it never gets old for me anyway. It's one of the first places I came to when I moved to the area. I came down here for a beating of the bounds on the Lammas lands here, led by the brilliant new Lammas Lands Defence Committee. And it really kind of blew my mind after moving out here from the Angel. And it's been one of my favourite places ever since. I was down here yesterday with my family, so I thought I'd bring you guys along because it's a beautiful walk. So these are the new football pitches that were recently opened. I think they opened last summer. It's a great resource for local people. On the subject of football, it was brilliant to see this week that Tottenham striker Harry Kane is sponsoring Leyton Orient for next season, and having 3 charities that he supports on the Orient shirt, and obviously some of the money from the sale of the kits will go to those charities, which is fantastic, isn't it? I love the smell of this hawthorn blossom. It really is the smell of my childhood, that. We seem to be planting out a few little patches of woodland up here, and they've made paths through the trees to the left-hand side of the frame here, and below us to the right runs the Dagenham Brook. This is Marsh Lane Fields, an ancient landscape supposedly drained by Alfred the Great when he was stranding a Viking fleet up the Lea. Believe that if you like. But it's part of the old ancient Saxon Lea Tun, the Tun by the Lea, a manor at one point held by King Harold's brother Tostig. So it's said that King Harold used to stop by here on his way between London and his abbey at Waltham Abbey, and there's a legend of a sacred spring back there where Harold would water his horses. Of course, Tostig would later go on to betray his brother and join the Norwegian invaders and die at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. If you've seen any Game of Thrones or The Last Kingdom, you'll know that was pretty much par for the course in those days. But I love the idea of this land here being part of a pilgrimage route between London and Waltham Abbey, and then on to pilgrimage sites further north. It's a real oasis in the east, isn't it? A really precious landscape. There used to be horses grazing in this field here. I used to bring my kids down to see them, and they loved it. It was like being in the countryside. And there were pylons that stretched across here. That was all taken away for the Olympics. Of course, we wouldn't have this beautiful open space to enjoy if people hadn't continuously fought to protect it. I've spoken about this before, and I will link below to the video I made recently with the brilliant Claire Weiss, local historian, and I'll walk across the Shortland stream on the other side of Marsh Lane Fields here. But there were numerous attempts to enclose this land and develop it in some way, first by the East London Waterworks, and then it was feared that the Olympic Delivery Agency had their eyes on it. They moved the Eton Manor allotments to one corner here, and the fear was that once they put in an access road for the allotments, that would open the way for further development of the fields. There is development around it, actually, and we'll see. I think we'll go over the bridge onto the other part of the marshes there by the waterworks, and that's still under threat because they're trying to hold a massive music festival there this summer, which seems insane, right, in the current climate. So that's the Manor Garden allotments in there, which were relocated here from what is now the Olympic Park around Hackney Wick, and they had a very long history stretching back over 100 years in that site. Very sad day when they were moved from their home. And here it is, the beautiful Marsh Lane. I'll never forget the first time I saw it. Like a beautiful country lane running through East London. So if you want to know about the other half of Marsh Lane Fields, I'll put a link below, because I did the walk I did with Claire Weiss here, where she talks all about the history of Marsh Lane and about the Shortland stream, which runs across the other corner of the fields here. It was a really great walk in very different weather. It was raining quite hard throughout the entire time, so it's beautiful to be back down here in the sun. And here's a map of the area that we just walked across. The beach volleyball, the Dagenham Brook here, Hythe Farm, growing football pitches now instead of crops. Jubilee Wood, or what will become Jubilee Wood, running through the middle of that open space. So we'll just walk along this lovely little path here beside Orient Way, and then we'll go looking for another beach. This is a real bridge between worlds with the railway yards. So this is interesting here. The next beach I'm going to is a little spot on the River Lea that people have sort of adopted as an unofficial swimming spot, and it's even marked somewhere as Hackney Beach, but look, Lea Valley Regional Park Authority, swimming is not permitted. We strongly advise against swimming in these waters. Traces of sewage, chemicals and heavy metals, sharp objects, cold water, and it's over there somewhere. Let's go and have a look. Now we've crossed over onto Leyton Marshes on the site of the old waterworks, which are behind that tree line there. They've been preserved as a beautiful nature reserve. This used to be a really great pitch and putt. I used to come over here sort of around this time of the day, actually towards the end of the day in the summer, and go round with my son following me. It was fantastic. It's a shame it's gone. You can't believe they're even contemplating allowing them to host a music festival here. Even though it only lasts, I think, 3 or 4 days, obviously they'll be set up for ages, and then there's the effect of heavy bass music that would have there's a bird sanctuary over there. So what you really want to do is put an incredibly loud music festival next to it. Anyway, people have objected to it, obviously. Claire Weiss has been leading a fantastic effort, and Wetlands Steve and a number of other people that I believe sometimes watch the videos. And they've put in a heroic kind of defence of this area. So let's hope the council see sense and refuse permission for a music festival here. I mean, it would be a real travesty, wouldn't it? Welcome to East London. If we go down past this beautiful old oak tree here, we should see the river, I think. I don't think I've been through here actually. That path didn't go anywhere, so I think if we go through here, we enter another realm. And there she is, the sacred River Lea. It's a really beautiful spot. Nobody's swimming. Somebody had their hammock up just over the water and there's some lads on the other side listening to music. It's kind of a nice, almost like a secret beach environment down there. It's a lovely vibe over here today, over on the marshes. One day I came down here and there must have been easily 100 people in there with rubber rings and their kids in there and their dinghies in there and all sorts. It really was like the beach. And of course this is an ancient boundary, an ancient border here. Today it separates the London boroughs of Waltham Forest and Hackney. Back in the day, before that, it was the border between Middlesex and Essex. And going back before that, it's said to have been the border between the Danelaw, which was on the Essex side, and English law or Wessex law on the other side. One year when I came down here, the river was full of dead mitten crabs. Apparently fallen off a ship down the docks and made their way up the river. These flowers here are really quite pretty. I think they are an invasive species, aren't they? Isn't it Himalayan balsam? Just to be found all along the Lea north of the Olympic Park. There's that beautiful smell of damp grass that you get on summer evenings, which is just, it's like a therapy on its own, that smell. Mingle that in with the cow parsley and the hawthorn blossom. What more can you want? Well, a pint in the pub would be good, but you know. All hail the pylon. Bridge that links Waltham Forest and Hackney. And out onto Hackney Marshes. Beautiful expanse of football pitches. A place of Sunday morning legends. You can go that way over to the Middlesex Filter Beds, which is a glorious spot. Again, I've got a video here I'll link to below. And through there you've got the Hackney Cut running on the other side of those trees. I imagine that is unbearably busy today. It kind of feels like a relatively normal summer evening over here. It's not quite Daniel Defoe's Journal of a Plague Year, is it? There is a little scene in that book where Defoe describes a scene on these marshes actually, where there were watchmen on the marshes trying to stop people crossing over from London over to Walthamstow and Leyton, which I guess must have been relatively free of the plague. This is a slightly different scene altogether, isn't it? This is like a piece of public sculpture, isn't it? All the football posts lined up here back to back. The kind of corridor between them. There's obviously some sort of psychogeographical alignment going on with those tower blocks there, bang in between the goalposts. What are they telling us? It's so strange when you look at the city down there, the towers of the City of London, that it's almost difficult to imagine going back there. It's only, what's it been now, 8 weeks? I've become so entrenched in the lockdown. I feel like a lot of you, it sort of seems more distant than the number of miles. I guess I could probably walk there and back in a day. Well, I could definitely walk there and back in a day. But you wouldn't, under the current circumstances. Leaves rattling in the trees almost sound like a round of applause. A round of applause for what? back across the Lea. That looks like quite a big fire over there. Maybe it's nothing too serious. There's the velodrome over there and the towers of Stratford, where we were walking last week. There's a certain symmetry about today's walk, and it will be ending it where last week's also ended. And we'll be looping back near the start of the walk. You can see the Nest tower block there in the Leyton sign where we started our walk today, and that's where it will end. Thank you so much for joining me on this glorious walk across the marshes today. What a beautiful day it is. I hope you're all still doing well and keeping safe and healthy and sane. Having your company on these Corona walks has been massively, massively appreciated. It's been a really wonderful focus for my week through the lockdown. So a massive thank you from me to you for keeping me company on these walks. I'll see you on the next walk, wherever that may be.